Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the 2022 Korea TESOL International Conference. I'm the Zulu host, Andy Jiahao Liu. In this room, each presentation will last for 25 minutes, ideally 20 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for Q&A. To ensure a smooth presentation, please mute yourself throughout the process. If you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. Meanwhile, the presentation will be recorded. Thanks for your kind cooperation in advance. And now we will invite Ms. Linlin from the Education University of Hong Kong to deliver her presentation. Chinese EFL learners' willingness to communicate in the online class, an ideodynamic approach. So, Ms. Linlin, the stage now is yours.
Yeah. Shall I share my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Linlin Liu, or you can call me Ling. And I'm currently taking my doctoral study in English language education in the Education University of Hong Kong. I'm very lucky and fortunate to have Dr. Jusen Lee as my supervisor. And 9 years ago, I started my career as in the field of English language teaching in a vocational college in mainland China, where I have taught nearly 4,000 hours long English classes and got to know more than 2,000 EFL learners. From the class observation and casual talks with the students, I found that their willingness to communicate vary from one class to another and from one moment to the next moment. So this got me very interested in the factors that may affect the differences. And thus it leads us to do an empirical study on this topic to better understand the learning of Chinese EFL learners and hopefully can help the teaching and learning of English language with some insightful pedagogical suggestions. So here is the paper. And if you're interested, you can download it. I also have already uploaded to the conference website. So today I will begin with some background information of former studies in willingness to communicate in second language. And this could help explain how our research project could benefit this area of study. Afterwards, I will present and discuss the results of the research in more details. And finally, I will also introduce some pedagogical suggestions for classroom practice. So starting from now, for the next 15 minutes, I will walk you through this research, starting by exploring willingness to communicate in second language. Here is the pyramid model of willingness to communicate in second language. It was developed by McIntyre and his associates in the last century. Many researches have been done to provide extensive evidence based on this model and found that willingness to communicate in second language is affected independently or collectively by trait-like internal factors and state-like external factors. But regrettably, most of the existing studies were mainly conducted in face-to-face settings, and research on L2-WTC in digital settings has received limited attention. Even less research has been conducted by taking a dynamic approach to understand willingness to communicate in second language in digital environments. To our understanding, Crook is the first one taking a dynamic approach to examine whether there is any variability in L2-WTC by using Second Life in 2019. But it only engaged 2 Polish students who are in English major with very high English proficiency level. More recently, in last year, Crook conducted a similar line of research using the same platform. Our research is designed to investigate L2-WTC in an online class, recruit more participants with various proficiency levels in a Chinese context, and apply an ideodynamic method to enhance data accuracy and reliability. Here are the two research questions we had for this study. The number one is there variability in the participants' L2WTC in an online class? And the research question number two is what factors may have influenced fluctuations in the participants' L2WTC in an online class? So in this study, Wolf meeting was used to perform the online class. Wolf meeting is a similar one to Zoom, but more widely used in mainland China. Instead of using Zoom, we use this one. It's also called Tencent Classroom, in Chinese 腾讯课堂 in mainland China. This platform has been widely used during the COVID-19 pandemic in mainland China as well. Here you can see the data here. Our participants were 7 Chinese EFL learners who enrolled in a public vocational college. They have been learning English for 10 to 13 years through formal education without any overseas experience. Their English proficiency levels ranged from B1 to C1 based on the CEFR framework. More than 70% of them indicated a below average familiarity with an online class. The participants were invited to attend 4 sessions of an online class, each lasting for 20 minutes. At the pre-test stage, students reviewed the previous lesson by answering teacher-led questions. And at the during test stage, 3 or 4 activities were implemented based on the different session topics. At the post-test stage, students filled in a self-evaluation sheet and a reflection log. Here are the topics for each session and the main activities we used during each session. And the method, we collect data by using an ideodynamic method right after obtaining the consents from the participants. So firstly, we video recorded, like what we're doing right now, we video recorded all the sessions, then ask participants to rate their L2WTC levels on a scale from -5 to 5 and on a minute basis. That means they need to rate their L2WTC levels for each minute while watching the recorded videos of their performances. Lastly, semi-structured interviews were conducted for in-depth analysis and interpretation. And we do this via social media. It's because of the pandemic situation here. Now let's move on to the findings. Here it can be easily found that the fluctuation pattern is most obvious in the very beginning and least obvious in the end of the project. This suggests that the participants' L2WTC were highly dynamic, which varied from one session to another and from moment to moment. This could be resulted from many factors, and we will talk about this in more detail. Let's take a closer look at the session 1. We can see that the changing patterns for Lucy and Linda were particularly noticeable, as both participants had high levels of L2WTC at the outset while continuing to drop to -5, the lowest level of L2WTC. Interestingly, most of the participants' L2WTC dropped in varying degrees during a span of 11 to 17 minutes. Accordingly, 3 main factors have been found which could explain these issues. And they are inadequacy of vocabulary, technical issues, and unfamiliarity with the interlocutors. And then we look at the session 2. Majority of the participants showed fluctuating trends of L2WTC levels throughout this session. However, as opposite to session 1, none of the participants rated below 0. Moreover, all indexes moved between 2 and 5. which showed less fluctuation patterns than those from the first session. Remember, it's from -5 to 5, right? So this suggest that a trajectory of L2WTC in the second session seemed more stable and less turbulent than in the previous one. According to the participants' accounts, visual aids, familiarity with the interlocutors and online platform, and friendly and active learning environment benefit their performance during this session. As for session 3, all participants maintained high and stable levels of L2WTC. At first glance, L2WTC levels, particularly in the cases of Sophia, Anne, and Lucy, appear to go up and down. But on a closer inspection from 3 to 5, which were more stable than those in the former 2 sessions, the participants reported that teacher effective and pedagogical support, as well as topic sensitivity, helped boost and sustain their high level of L2WTC. And for the last session, we can see that the participants show the most stable patterns of L2WTC in the last session. Most participants were reported to gain L2 confidence as they accumulated more online learning experience and practiced more communication and learning experience with their teachers and their peer students. They also talked about the pedagogical benefits of games. I mean, game elements here that were used during this session. So here in this table, it showed that we used 4 tenets of McIntyre's pyramid model to summarize all factors influencing the fluctuations of L2WTC over the course of the online sessions. Here are the sub-themes as well, you can see that. And we use open coding system to address this data. We also compute the total number of the statements. So in conclusion, concerning the first research question, it can be observed that L2 communication in an online classroom is also highly dynamic and unpredictable. However, as sessions go on, the fluctuation level become more and more stable. With respect to the second research question, both stable trait-like factors and transient state-like factors were identified, which contributed to the observed ups and downs of L2WTC in an online class. The last but surely not the least, we would like to offer some pedagogical implications for the classroom practice. Firstly, while we pay lots of attention to student-centered approach in English language teaching and learning, the essential role that L2 teachers would play by no means can be ignored. And we suggest that different support should be offered considering different levels of L2 competence and L2 confidence. Besides, making good use of wait time can provide a less pressureless atmosphere in which students would feel connected with a teacher and other classmates and be driven to communicate in class. Moreover, teachers are advised to promote peer encouragement and nurture a positive online learning environment. Especially, they should make good use of the chat room, of course, in the online teaching platform to nurture a positive online learning environment, since it can trigger positive initiations. Finally, we also recommend that teachers provide pedagogical support by choosing interesting and familiar topics, integrate gamification elements into L2 tasks, and provide visual aids and upload recorded online lessons into the respective learning management systems. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here more than happy to discuss with you. So that's all for my presentation and the research. And do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Lin. This is a quite interesting study, and before I do have some questions, but before I ask, I may wait for some seconds to let the other audiences to ask the question first.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can start just asking my question. Oh,
Sure.
it's more like a thought because I share the same background with you, and we are all come from China, and we all know that the students in the Chinese classes are unwilling to express their opinions or express their thoughts, no matter what kind of method we have used to try to motivate our students to say something or to encourage them to use more such kind of things. And during my tutorial at our university, I always noticed that if I didn't call their name, my student actually will ignore my voices and ignore my attitude or such kind of things. So US that is quite innovative to investigate the online classes, but I do have a small question just out of curiosity. Have you observed any gender differences between your participants?
So that's one limit of our research right now for this stage as well, because we have not get to the gender differences yet, because the sample size is quite small. It's only engaged 7 students. It's very like preliminary research. So that's a very good trend or a very good way to involve more into this kind of research, the gender, yes.
Okay, I see.
We haven't done that yet.
Okay, so and then it's about, so I noticed that you and your supervisor asked the student to respond to the WTC level each minute, and then I just wondering, will such kind of things influence their learning motivation or such kind of influence their learning efficiency?
Yes, of course. That's why we ask them to do that. It can be from the semi-structured interviews. They also reported that we asked them to read their L2WTC right after the class by minute basis. So they intend to engage more in the next session because they know that after next session, they will need to report this kind of levels as well. So this is also another way to encourage them to engage more in the online learning and encourage them to be aware what they can do in the sessions or in the class. So that's a very good question, and that's what we do in this kind of research. Yes.
Oh, I see. So thanks for your clarification. This is a quite interesting point that I have never think about it, about to raising their motivation or such kind of things. It's more like a monitor.
Yeah. So it's really good and it's very influential. And they said, well, it makes them to aware, oh, I can do what, or I need to do what for the next session, because they're aware that they are going to rate this kind of levels. And another limits to this research project is also concerning the enjoyment and anxiety. I mean, their emotions. So we are about to do that, but it's a limit to this project as well. And we're about to monitor or about to get to study their emotions in the class, because that's also very important to encourage them or involve them in English language learning, especially in Chinese context,
Yes, thank you. So that's all for my questions and the comments.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. So if there is no questions or other things, then I will end the session. And thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Have a good one.
Okay, have a good